Either. I wanted to talk a little bit about the whole idea to give silver to create a metal-backed currency in Greece, gold or silver. It's promoted by Max Keiser and by Mr. Salinas, but the story is way too standard. Let's say you have a problem, and now you have to think differently, and this is the solution: gold and silver. It's been said for a long time now, and I basically drifted away from the idea that gold and silver is the end solution. I think it will be very hard to prevent in a world where gold and silver are currencies to move to a system that's better, that's basically based on the same principles as the current system is. If it wasn't for a lack of oil and lots of fraud in the financial system, this financial system would work. And basically, the reason why it doesn't work, one could say, is that the currency is unreliable. Well, that's not really the case. Of course, it's paper currency, but it's clearly fraud. It's clearly corruption. And the reason why that fraud and corruption occurs is that there is, let's say, a pyramidal structure to the distribution of power. And I'm not talking about, let's say, influence, but about really energy, about fossil fuel energy. And because of that hierarchical structure, you cannot see what's happening, on the side of the credit suppliers. The credit suppliers have to be in congruence and, let's say, have to consider the energy supply. And they do that, and that's the carbon credit system. And in that system, fraud on the top level can be very invisible because you simply don't know, I don't know how much billions ABN AMRO has or what the balance sheet says. Very few people that concern themselves with that or have the time to do that. I don't know how much debt the government has and how much it has backed and how much, you can always write a document or a contract saying, well, Social Security money should be kept in extreme confluentic investments, and then write somewhere else that confluentic, which is let's say more like a speech impediment that I just had, means already spent. Like it has to be in investments that have already been spent. I'm not sure what that means, but it can mean anything. It's legalese. You have to trust the people, and and of course that's the big problem with governments, that you have to trust a large group of people that simply come to the conclusion that there's no way to test their trust. There's no way to punish them for abuse. So that's why you want to have small government, and that's why you might want to have gold and silver currency, because the trust is gone. But in the current situation, I think it is much better for Greece to. I'm not sure. It is a good move for Greece to have sovereignty over its own citizen, which means that these citizens are not controlled by debts that they have to pay in a currency that they cannot create or make or earn or control. That I think is a very bad thing, because it's obvious that in a world with less fossil energy, at least in the beginning, you will have more labor, and labor has to be controlled by local currency liquidity controls, and cannot be controlled by remote, because you can basically suddenly create €1 billion and bring it to Greece. There will not be enough people to work for that money. So you have huge inflation. That creates problems. And then somebody that works really long to save his money, to spend on his retirement, is screwed. That's exactly what's happening at the moment. That has to do with let's say there's a deeper relationship between the corruption in the system and the bribeability of people with these type of abuses than with the nature of money, I think. So it would be fine if they went to the drachma. If they went to a gold or silver-backed drachma, they would be basically screwed, because they would have to get all that gold and silver, have to make the coin, bring it into circulation. How do you do that? What do people trade for it? So you have to hand it to people, and then what people will sell their stuff for it, or they won't, or whatever. I'm not sure how that would mix with the current reality of international finance. It's much more efficient to make a new fiat currency. There's another reason why why it's not a good idea, and that is simply because you don't want to because it's logical in a mechanized economy, in an economy with cars and factories, that somebody distributes the energy that you use. And you might be it yourself if you generate, let's say if I have a solar panel and I'm the only one in the streets and people want to have their lights on at night and I have some battery, so I store it during the day and I sell it at night, then I have a local economy and I should be the one that prints the money. So that people can buy the electricity at my place and I can buy stuff with that money. See, then we have an economy going. People that want to read at night will have to sell something to me in order to be able to have the money to buy the electricity from me. So we both have something out of it. They get the electricity, I get the stuff. That's the way money should work in a renewable-based economy. And that's the way it works in the carbon credit economy, only it's hidden. People are not really understanding it. Gold and silver doesn't solve that problem because I make the electricity, then somebody buys it with the gold and silver. But if I make a large amount of electricity, then maybe there's not enough gold or people cannot buy it. And I cannot grow, I cannot control, basically I cannot flexibly control the access of people to the wealth that I create. That's the same with oil, same with carbon credits. It's like if I have a new oil well, I want to throw it out into the world. Of course, to get a margin of it, but that's basically the drive behind it. Let's use this stuff. Like, let's be Reaganite. If I cannot print money at that time so that everybody can get 100 euros, or let's say for their birthday, to spend on my oil, then I cannot do that. I don't have the flexibility anymore. So you get basically you get a more or less mired world, which will have to phase out the gold and silver at some point. Otherwise, it will all end up with the energy suppliers. In a mechanized world, gold and silver will end up with the energy suppliers. That is why we got rid of it to begin with. But as an interim, and especially in countries with lots of labor, where the relationship or the demographic, I think the balance towards labor and the value of labor. So what can I, let's say, if I work here in The Hague, manual labor or something, what value do I create? Well, very little, because people go to the supermarket to get what they need every day. That's basically what they need, and then they watch television. That's it. and they heat their home. That's it. People don't need much more. But I cannot make what you find in the supermarket, and I cannot make what they use to heat their home, usually. And I don't make television, or a little bit maybe, but that's it. In a society like that, gold and silver, I don't think it works. But in a society where you can, let's say, if I want to have a party or a banquet and I have gold and I can give it to somebody, and it's an interrelationship between people and the labor that they can, and the things that they can perform, yes, then it makes a lot of sense. Because the moment that you go with your gold and silver to a guy with a diesel generator to make your party work, or the guy that sells the diesel, the gold is out of circulation because that guy with the diesel is not going to give it back. He has too much diesel. There's too much energy. That's what the problem was with when the English discovered oil in Iran, and of course America had the same thing. They discovered oil. All the gold ended up with the Saudis, and that's not what should happen. So that's why they got rid of the gold standard. And that's why we have the carbon credit standard. And it should be simply the renewable credit standard, not a gold credit, not a gold standard. That's not to say that, so once again, I might repeat myself, it's not to say that if you want to organize people in a sovereign fashion, gold is the best way. If you want to, let's say, but that will create a lot of tension. And I think that if you want to keep Europe working, you should consider a parallel system of carbon credit and renewable energy credit. Anyway, hope you find this interesting. I've written a piece about it, and there should be three types of credit. One is the carbon credit, which should be phased out as soon as possible, renewable energy credit, and labor credit. I think those are the three basic ones. And then, maybe let's say the renewable energy credit is always local, because the renewable energy cannot be transported that far. In the future, it will be possible to transport renewable energy over huge distances because there will be so much of it. But then there won't be any need for it anymore because there will be so much of it. So forget about transportation. But that will mean that you produce close to the consumer of the energy, and that you transport it very little, and that and the fourth effect, the fourth currency, that is the most important one, is cheapness. There's no word for it. The fourth currency will mean that things are for free, that the world will become an organic thing that keeps us alive without us having to slave over it. Slavery and working for money is simply a fetish of a group of people. It's not the final and best solution to our problems. Anyway, thanks for listening, and I hope you enjoyed.